Before we actually dove into spring training, we did make 2 extensions to 2 players currently on the team. The first one being Tanner Scott, our filthy left-handed reliever who can go multiple innings and strikes at literally everybody, has been brought back for 2 more years. Obviously, these are extensions, so they don't come into effect till next year. So he has this year, and then plus 2 more years after that at $5 million per year. And then with Lorenzo Ordonez, who I've been trying to sign through his arbitration every offseason, but he just never ends up signing the deal. I bought it as arbitration, as an extension, so he has this year plus the rest of his arbitration, and then next year it'll kick in at $4 million per. This year he's making $900,000. And we're jumping into the 2024 spring training, getting ready for the season. Giants taking on the Angels, a rematch of the 2022 World Series. Jamie Barria going for the Angels, and the Giants are sending out their top prospect in Marco Murillo. Take a look at the Giants lineup on the day 1-9, as well as the Angels lineup 1-9. We'll start things off top half of the first inning, where Lorenzo Ordonez is going to go opposite way to land one in for a little bloop single. Then with 2 outs in the inning, Connor Panis is sending one out deep to right center field. It keeps carrying, and that one's in the bullpen. A long 2-run home run for Connor Panis, and the Giants jump off to a 2-0 lead here in this game. We move things along bottom half of the first now. Second pitch Murillo throws on the day is clobbered onto the grass over the fence in left center. Tim Anderson, stick talk out here, hitting a solo shot, cutting the Giants' lead in half. 2-1 is the score. But then Murillo would rebound as he gets a ground ball to shortstop. Sosa makes the play as Simmons is retired. Then he strikes out Trout, looking at a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And then for the third out of the inning, it would be Chad Pinder grounding out to first base, where Kloboff is making the play. Move things on bottom of the second. Murillo in another jam. Here it's Avellino making a diving stop, then picking it up and firing it over to first to retire the third out of the inning. Very nice play by Avellino on the hot corner. On to the bottom of the third now, and it's Mike Trout getting a hanging curveball, and you cannot hang anything to that man. He absolutely destroys a ball way out of here in left field, ties the game at 2, and then Murillo would rebound. He would not be afraid to throw that curveball again as he gets Chad Pinder to strike out swinging. Parker Bidwell came on in the top of the fourth for the Angels, and he would give up a line drive to Keith Cloud that grazes the fence in left field, and that baby is gone. A solo shot for Keith Cloud makes it a 3-2 lead for the Giants. Move things on to the bottom of the fourth, where Antoine Hinojosa comes on for the Giants. And the first batter up's going to hit a ground ball into the hole. Sosa from the outfield grass. He's got a strong arm, but not strong enough. It's an infield single for Matt Theis. And then it's going to be a bloop single for Himosio. And it's going to be back-to-back singles, first and second, still nobody out. Danny Jensen's also going to smack one to right field, so 3 straight singles. Bases are juiced for the Angels. David Fletcher at the plate hits a ball to third base. It's the ground ball they need, but Avellino muffs it, so he's only able to get the runner at first. Run comes in to tie at 3, and then Hinojosa works his magic to get out of the jam. He strikes out Rayleigh for the second out, and then strikes out Anderson for the third out. Move things on to the bottom of the fifth inning as Hinojosa gets out of that jam. Yaxel Rios is on with 1 out, facing Mike Trout, blows a fastball right by him. Trout's second strikeout of the day, and then Rios would get Pinder on a slider for the third out. 2 strikeouts in Yaxel Rios' appearance in this game, showing off his filthy stuff. Sean Jelly, the former Giant, came on for the Angels in the top of the 6th, and it's going to be a ground ball from Derek Kloboff to cap off that 1-2-3 inning that he works. Seth Corey came on for the Giants in the bottom of the 6th. First batter up, Matt Theis going down on a big breaking ball, drop third strike. Numata tosses the first to get the outs. And then it's going to be a ground ball into the hole. Sosa showing off the strong arm. Very good defensive shortstop making the play there. And then Corey gets Jansen way out in front of one on the changeup. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Corey. We move things on to the top of the 9th, where Sean Doolittle comes on in a tie game, and he gives up a bomb to Connor Panis, his second home run of the day. This one is absolutely launched way out of here in right field, and it gives the Giants a 4-3 lead. Alex Claudio then came on looking for the save in the bottom of the ninth, and with one out, it would be a ground ball up the middle. That's going to get into center field for a base knock. So it's a runner on first, one out. David Fletcher then hits one into right field. That's back-to-back singles, first and second, one out for the Angels. Brings up Rayleigh. He's going down the left field line. This one's going to get into the corner, and it's going to score a run to tie the game at 4. So second and third, one out still. The next pitch to the next batter is going to get away from Numata. A run comes in on a wild pitch, and that is how the Los Angeles Angels walk this one off over the San Francisco Giants, here to kick off the spring training season in 2024. David Fletcher got player of the game honors for the Angels. He was 3 for 4 in the day, while on the Giants side of things, Connor Panis had 2 hits, 2 home runs. Keith Cloud had a line drive shot. Lorenzo Ordonez was 2 for 4 in the day. Edmundo Sosa was even 1 for 3 with the bat as well in this 5-4 loss to the Angels. And then after playing that first game of spring training, I took a look at our roster, and I decided that there were a few guys that we had that were never really going to get shots in the major league with us, and they were either out of options or I just wanted to open up spots on the roster. So I went out and traded 2 guys for prospects who aren't major league ready, and they need like a season or 2 of development before they actually are ready, because obviously we don't have any open spots right now, so we don't want to just trade one logjam to create another logjam. And the first guy we traded was Abital Avellino. We sent him to the Miami Marlins in return for a right-handed relief pitcher in Josh Towers. He is 21 years old. He's got a high K/9 rating, but the rest of his stats, or the rest of his ratings, I should say, are pretty raw. So like I said, he doesn't need a year or 2 of development down in the minor leagues. And then Mark Strange, who is still only 23 years old, was sent to the Texas Rangers for a right-handed pitching starter, Todd Sisk. He is 20 years old. He's got pretty decent ratings, very good stamina, very good hit per 9, and then the rest of it is pretty raw, but it could definitely go up. So these are guys who I'm hoping that after a few years of development, they could play roles for us at some point. It's just we don't have any room for these guys to be in the immediate, into the immediate, like they could be in the major leagues right now, because we already have way too many of those types of players. Moving on to another game as the San Francisco Giants are taking on the Kansas City Royals, who are sending out Andre Machado for the 4th time this spring, having a great spring so far. And then he's going to be opposed by the left-hander Braylon Marquez, also making his 4th appearance of the spring. Take a look at the Giants lineup 1-9, as well as the Royals lineup 1-9 on the day. We'll start things off top half of the first inning. Whit Merrifield's going to ground one up the middle on the first pitch he sees. That's a base knock for the speedy second baseman. And then with one out, he's going to go show off those fleet feet as he goes and swipes second base, gets himself into scoring position, but then Marquez buckles down and he strikes out Williams for the second out. Next batter up is Salvador Perez, and he's going to fly out to right field. Derek Kloboff makes the play on the run, and it's still scoreless. Top half of the second now. Marquez gets a ground ball from Dunez. It's going to be a great play by Sherwood Mooney from the outfield grass. The second baseman on the day completes the first out, and then for the third out of the inning, it would be Jose Peraza going down on the cutter that runs in on his hands. Bottom of the second here, Edmundo Sosa rips the ball up the middle. That's going to be a base knock as Mundito with a base knock. So it's runner on first, 2 outs. Braylon Marquez swinging the shillelagh a bit, but he is robbed by Roman Quinn, making the diving catch out in right center field. So it's still scoreless. Top of the 4th now. Marquez strikes out Nick Williams for the second out, and then for the third out, Salvador Perez, the same fate, but on a fastball. So 2 strikeouts of the inning for Marquez. Move on to the top of the 5th, starts off right where he left off, strikes out Dunez. After that, it's Hunter Dozier going down on the changeup, and then for the third batter of the inning, Jose Peraza would destroy a pitch into left field naturally. Could not strike out the side as the first run of the game comes off Peraza's bat, and the Royals jump out to a 1-0 lead here in the 5th inning. Move things on to the bottom of the 6th, where Brad Sanchez comes on, the Royals' usual number 1 starter, and here he is going to give up a line drive to Keith Cloud into the left center field gap. That's going to get down Easy double for the speedy Clad, so he's in scoring position. And then Edmundo Sosa going right center field. That's also going to get down in the gap, and they are trading places. Sosa with a 2-hit game ties the game up at 1 with an RBI double. He is pumped, having a great spring so far, so we move things on. Next batter as Gilberto Fuentes draws himself a walk, and then Jock Peterson comes on to pinch hit. So it's runners on first and second, 2 outs. First pitch swinging, Peterson almost gives them a big lead, but instead he works a count, and then he gets down looking on a changeup that didn't really nick the corner, but he goes down anyways. Robert Gazelman came on for the 7th inning, and he's going to give up an absolute bomb from the pinch hitter Ortiz. This one is way out of here in right center. And the Royals are back on top. 2-1 is the score. Not the appearance that Gazelman wanted in this one. Darwinzon Hernandez came on for the bottom of the 7th, and he's facing Seth Beer. Some lefty-on-lefty crime, as Beer absolutely demolishes a ball way out of here in right field. And that ties the game up at 2. A bunch of solo shots in this game. Yaxel Rios came on at the top of the 8th for the Giants, facing Michael Gigliotti, the pinch hitter, and he's going to muscle one out to left center field. That's going to get down into the gap. Gigliotti's got speed, so that's an easy double for him. So it's a runner in scoring position to lead off the inning. Next batter up is G-Man Choi, hits a ball to deep right center field. Keith Cloud, who moved to center field midway through the game, makes the play, but it is enough to for Gigliotti to tag up. Mark Payton then comes on to pinch hit, the Texas Longhorn legend, and he'll be facing Alex Claudio with 1 out, as Payton pops one up the left field, but it is going to be deep enough to tag up Gigliotti from third base, as the Royals are back on top thanks to a sac fly. 3-2 is the score, and then Claudio struggled. Ground ball to Fuentes, jump throw from foul territory, cannot make the play. Runner on first, 2 outs, then it's a walk. So it's first and second now, brings up Peraza. He's going to ground one past Fuentes at third base, so it's bases juiced, 2 outs, and Tanner Scott's going to come on to face Brett Phillips, who on the first pitch is going to lay down a squeeze on a 2-out situation, but he pops it right back up to Tanner Scott, so nothing is going. JT Cargois then comes on for the Royals in the bottom of the 9th, and he would work a save as it gets Joey Gallo to strike out with a runner on second base, and the Royals end up winning this game over the Giants 3-2. Pedro Ortiz of the Royals ends up getting player of the game honors. He was 2 for 2 on the day with a home run, and on the Giants side of things, they had Seth Beer, who went 2 for 3 on the day with a home run as well. Edmundo Sosa with a 2-hit day with an RBI double. Keith Cloud had a double as well, and Gilberto Fuentes was 1 for 1. He also drew a walk. And that is going to wrap things up here for spring training, but it is not the end of the episode quite yet, as we do obviously have to show off who made the Major League roster, our 25-man opening day roster to kick off the 2024 season, as you see that scrolling by your screen right now. The usual guys made it, obviously, and then of the surprises, or the guys who were battling out for jobs, first there was Connor Panis, who absolutely tore it up in spring training this year, a 941 OPS, 7 home runs through 67 ABs. Him and Derek Klauboff are going to be the backup outfielders, and then Edmundo Sosa was actually a major surprise in spring training. He had an 802 OPS through 95 ABs, a 337, 370, 432 slash line, and he is out of options, so I figured why not give him a shot at being the backup infielder, and since Rivas didn't exactly play poorly, he played quite well, as a matter of fact. He has options, so he can just get sent down to AAA, and Sosa can get a shot as being the backup infielder at the Major League level. You may also be asking yourself, why didn't Sherwood Mooney get that shot? And that is because he did not win the job because he just wasn't as good as Sosa or Rivas. He really wasn't impressive at all in spring training. And as far as the long reliever and starter roles, Marco Murillo and Braylon Marquez, neither of those guys put up the strongest numbers in spring training, but we are still going to go with we still were going to go with Murillo as the 5th starter and Braylon Marquez as the long man, But then we went into the waivers screen and we saw who was being waived, and one name stuck out to me. JB Bukauskas of the Houston Astros was waived. He's an 83 overall, A potential, 27 years old still. He only made 7 starts last season. He was very good in those 7 starts. He was serviceable in 2023 as a full-time starter, and then he was very heavily used as a solid long man in 2021. He is going to be our 5th starter to start the year, while Marco Murillo is going to start 2024 in AAA, and Braylon Marquez is going to be our long reliever. So if you take a look at our rotation and whatnot, the rotation 1 to 5 is going to be Chris Sale, Derek Rodriguez, Dylan Bundy, Jay Groom, and then JB Bukauskas. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. He does not have a pronunciation guide on his baseball reference page yet, so I'm assuming it's just pronounced how it looks. And then in the bullpen, of course, Braylon Marquez is the long man, Tupman, Trejo, and Scott are the middle relievers, and then it's sort of going to be a closer by committee to start the year with Keenan Middleton, Robert Gazelman, and Alex Claudio. I haven't really decided who is going to be the closer out of those 3. If it wasn't annoying to do quick manage for literally every single game and there was more in-depth options, I would literally run a closer by committee, but it's not really an option this because I don't really trust that if I don't have a closer and just have 2 setups and move one of those guys to the middle, that they'll just go based on whatever's best in the sim, because what they'll probably do is just literally do it randomly. But also, like I said, I'm not trying to go through and quick manage literally every single game, because that's just tedious and I'm not interested in doing that. So we're just going to be testing out closes, essentially. Like right now it's Middleton, maybe a week from now it's Gazelman, maybe a week from then it's Claudio, maybe a week from then it's even some guy like Tupman. And then on the offensive side of things, looking at our lineup, we have first baseman Fuentes leading things off against righties. Of course, that's where he absolutely raked last season, so we're going to keep him there. Then Jock in left, Baez at short, Gallo at third, Ramos in center, Bart at catching, Mooney at second, and Ordonez in right field. And then the lineup against lefties, you got Ramos in center, Baez short, Kloboff in right field, Gallo at third base, catcher Bart, second base Mooney, first base Beer, and left field Ordonez. People ask, why don't I play Jock Peterson against left-handed pitching? And that's because the guy can't hit against left-handed pitching. I'm not going to play the guy against lefties purely because his overall might be higher than someone who can hit against lefties. Overall doesn't mean shit when it comes to if a guy can hit against a certain handedness or not. And the fact that he has very high plate discipline doesn't mean much to me in the situation of him playing against lefties, because yeah, he might walk, but he's also never going to hit consistently against lefties. So I'm not going to force a Jock into the lineup just because his overall might be higher than someone like Kloboff or Ordonez. Doesn't mean that he can hit against lefties better than someone like Kloboff or Ordonez. Plus, this is National League Baseball, so just because a guy sits against a certain lineup doesn't mean that he's not going to get into the game. If he doesn't start against lefties, a right-handed reliever could come in, and then he easily just comes in as a pinch hitter or a double switch, and he will get 1 to 2 ABs on that day as well. So that is why I don't start Jock against left-handed pitching. Same goes for Fuentes, although he's not quite as drastic. And now we are not going to just take a look at our team like we usually do in this part of a spring training or preseason video. We are also going to take a look around the league. Since we're about to enter Season 6, 2024, the league has obviously changed quite a lot. Teams look different. So we're going to take a look around and look at some of the more interesting teams throughout Major League Baseball. Of course, starting off with the National League West, where you have the San Diego Padres, who still have a very strong rotation. They added to it with another A potential prospect, of course, and they also added Gumby in a lefty in Jordan Montgomery. Their bullpen was their biggest weakness last season, in my opinion, and they added Josh Hader to that, so they have definitely beefed up every aspect of their team. They also replaced Eric Hosmer at first base, who is literally in AAA for them, with Rhys Hoskins, and then they also added Daniel Robertson as a utility guy who's playing second base for them, which makes their lineup even scarier. They did lose Hunter Renfroe, but they added more than enough to offset the fact that they lost Hunter Renfroe. The Dodgers did lose a couple pieces as well. They lost Julio Urias in the rotation, but they still have Buehler, Kershaw, May, and Ponce de Leon, who's been very solid for them, and they added Tyler Glasnow, who has great ratings. He just hasn't ever had a great season with the Tampa Bay Rays. The bullpen looks similar. They didn't really do much there. They did add AJ Minter, and they also added former Giant farmhand Kieran Lovegrove. I highly doubt he's like the best reliever they have available. It just, I have no idea how AI teams handle their bullpen, because if you look at AI teams' roster, it's always stuff like they'll have a catcher that's by far the best catcher on their roster, but they're on the major league level, they have 3 catchers, and it's like the 3 worst catchers in their organization, and while they have like 3 better ones just spread throughout the minor leagues, not in the major leagues. So I have no idea what the AI does with their roster, but that's who they have in their bullpen. And then their lineup is still extremely good, even after losing Cody Bellinger and Max Muncy this offseason. They added Matt Chapman, though, and then DJ LeMahieu will end up being their second baseman. I changed his main position to second base. It was third base, because I just hate how this game does the lineups for these AI teams, because it'll just blatantly leave guys off, even if their secondary position says they can play somewhere, because it's not their main position. So in the hopes that some of these AI teams will do some smarter lineups, I would change guys' primary positions to certain spots to hopefully help out these AI teams. While the Dodgers, their biggest weakness is their outfield defense, because Roger Wagner is their center fielder, and he is not a center fielder. As you can see his ratings, the guy just can't play center field. Obviously he can, because it says he's a secondary position at center field, but I mean, he can't actually play center field. And now moving on to the Colorado Rockies, who are still probably on that bubble of not quite being good enough to compete in the NL West, but they're not awful either. They did lose John Gray and Antonio Senzatella in their rotation, but they did add Ryan Borucki, who was a member of the Blue Jays previously. Their bullpen, they also added Arodys Vizcaíno, but still, they don't really have the strongest bullpen. Their lineup looks the same, essentially. For some reason, they're only playing Trevor Story against lefties, because like I said, weird AI manipulation of the lineups. They've got Brendan Rodgers at shortstop, Garrett Hampson at second, and then Socrates Brito in center field. I changed Hampson's primary position to center field because it was already like second base slash shortstop, I think, or like second base, shortstop, third base, and center field, I think it was, and I just changed it so he's a primary center fielder, and then his secondary position is like second, third, and short, or whatever it was. I also made Charlie Blackmon have the ability to play first base because the guy is just flat out awful defensively, so I figured if they can move Blackmon to first base and still have his bat in the lineup, maybe they can have an outfielder if they really wanted to play Socrates Brito in the outfield. Then you've got the Arizona D-backs, who are still the worst team in the NL West on paper. They did not add to their rotation. They did not add to their bullpen. The same goes for the lineup. They did not add to that, although they aren't burying Barreto in AAA anymore, so that's something, and they also lost Jake Lamb. As far as the other National League teams, the Atlanta Braves probably took the biggest jump, I would say. Their rotation is extremely good now. They added Blake Snell and Julio Urias and Taijuan Walker, who is their 5th starter. Kevin Gausman has been a very solid starter throughout the duration of this franchise for them, and he's now their long man because they just have so many good starters. They also added Jonathan Holder to their bullpen, who was rated very well in this game because it's Jonathan Holder's 2018 season's ratings and not Jonathan Holder 2019. And then they also, of course, have Roberto Ozuna as their closer, who they added to their team last season. The Phillies also are still a very good team. Obviously, their rotation is still pretty good, even without Aaron Nola. Their bullpen is still good as well, and then their lineup is downright terrifying. They added Cody Bellinger and Joey Wendell and Tyler Naquin to a lineup that already has Bryce Harper, Francisco Lindor, and Anthony Rendon. And now on to the New York Mets. We all know they have a nutty lineup led by guys like Mookie Betts and Jose Ramirez, as well as a bunch of other guys. They added Jake Lamb as their first baseman because Pete Alonso has not been good in this franchise, and then Yasmani Grandal is now their catcher. And yet, despite having that lineup, they have still not made the playoffs through the duration of this franchise, and that is because their pitching is bad. Like, bad as in a capital B, a capital A, a capital D. They still have Jacob deGrom, but everyone else in their rotation and their bullpen is mediocre at best. So definitely, they should have improved their pitching this offseason, but I guess they just didn't do that because MLB The Show. Although Mets not improving needs is quite Mets, it's just, in this game, it's not that they're the Mets and the game is channeling that, it's that MLB The Show is MLB The Show. And then the Miami Marlins are actually a team that I find very interesting. I mean, if I had this team at my control, I could very easily turn this team into a very good team. It's just that they're controlled by the AI, so their rotation is actually really solid because they haven't made any moves to that. They've just let their system do the work with their rotation. Sixto Sanchez, Pablo Lopez, Trevor Richards, Trevor Rogers, and Sandy Alcantara, all studs for them, 1 through 5. They added Josh James, who obviously we know on paper is very good. It's just, is he going to perform for them at the major league level? They also added Kirby Yates and Joe Jimenez to their bullpen. So they have a very strong bullpen as well, so their pitching staff, all of it is very good. It's just their lineup is quite weak. They really just have Ronald Butler as a star, Jorge Alfaro as a guy who wins Gold Gloves and can hit a little bit, and then Rosel Herrera, who's been pretty solid for them throughout this franchise, and then a bunch of like mediocre, unproven, or bad players. They added Travis Demerit to their team this year. They also have, I believe it's Lowe, I don't think it's Lau, it could be Lau. One of the low Lau guys from the Rays, they have him at first base, and they're not even using Avellino despite me trading them him. Instead, they're going to use this Diaz guy who has a consistent sub-600 OPS for them and playing 100-plus games every season. So, like I said, AI roster construction. Now taking a look at the National League Central, you've got the Cubs, who we know their lineup is very good. They still have Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Ian Happ. Of course, we know they added Aaron Judge. It's just they missed the playoffs last year because their pitching is not great at all, and they didn't really improve. Their rotation, not really good. It's Justice Sheffield and a bunch of like 70 overall guys, and then their bullpen is really... It's okay. That's very back-ended strong. They've got Will Smith still, and they also added Ryan Stanek to their bullpen. It's just that their rotation and the rest of their bullpen definitely holds them back. Then you've got the Cincinnati Reds, who of course lost Luis Castillo in the offseason. They still do have Noah Syndergaard and Hunter Green, though, as well as Joe Musgrove. They added Trevor Rosenthal to an already solid bullpen, and their lineup is still good, even after trading Nick Senzel to a division rival last season. Then you have the Pirates, who they still have a solid rotation. Mike Clevenger at the top of it, Mitch Keller is 2, and then Julio Teheran is 3. Solid bullpen even after losing Kyle Crick, and then their lineup on paper is quite strong. It's a lot of 80-plus overalls and high 80 overalls, and then even on their bench they have quite a few strong players. Brian Hayes and Maikel Franco. They added Brandon Belt as their first baseman. So on paper, the Pirates are a strong team. It's just going to be a matter of, are those guys going to perform for them? Then the St. Louis Cardinals, who are a team that once again has a very strong team on paper, but last year they were last in the NL Central. They brought back Jack Flaherty. They did not end up losing him. They signed him to a long-term deal, I believe. They brought back Michael Wacha. They added Tyler Skaggs to the rotation. Their bullpen's kind of weak, though. They did add Henry Mejia to their bullpen. He was the Boston Red Sox closer for quite a while in this save, and then he was also on last year's World Series team as well. And then you have the Cardinals lineup, where they have Joe Gray Jr. playing right field for them, hitting second. They brought back Jairo Munoz, and I think that's because he was available for arbitration because he missed like the last month of the season. I think that he had just enough of not enough player time or service time accumulated to where he was still eligible for arbitration, and that was purely because he missed like the last month of the season or whatever it was. So that's why he's able to come back, because they did not sign into a long-term deal, and they're only paying him like $5 million or something, despite him putting up consistent 900 plus OPSs for them. They still have Paul DeJong, Tyler O'Neill, Nolan Gorman's now their third baseman. Nick Prado should be their first baseman. It's just he actually dislocated his ankle in spring, so he is going to miss like the first month or so, and then they're playing this, I'm not even sure what his name is. And then like I mentioned, that situation where teams will have catchers who, I would just use the catchers, the situation. It's not like catchers as a specific position where I see this a lot, but it happens in this, where Andrew Kisner is the best overall catcher on their entire organization, but he's in AAA for them while they have two completely other guys on their major league roster catching for them. Also, one thing that I don't understand about the Cardinals is they consistently always have Harrison Bader leading off for them. And as you can see by his player card, The guy never gets on base consistently, but they keep just trotting him out there in the leadoff spot because I guess the AI thinks that the Cardinals just throw guys out in the leadoff spot who are fast. And now we move on to the American League, starting things off with probably the team that's going to win the World Series again if I had to take a pick. That's going to be the Boston Red Sox. They have a comically good rotation. Good is even putting it lightly. Shohei Ohtani, Jose Berrios, Luis Castillo, Sean Manaea, and Zach Wheeler. All of these guys are 90-plus overalls. I mean, having Zach Wheeler as your fifth starter is just comical. Their bullpen is also pretty good. Yimi Garcia won the reliever of the year last year. They added Nick Whitgren, who's a solid player in this game. Their lineup is still very good as well. They added Matt Olson to replace Mancini at first base. So I would say they're definitely the favorite in the American League again, while the Yankees, they added to the rotation, which was by far the best part of their team last year. They added Robbie Ray and Reynaldo Lopez to it, and then their bullpen is not quite what it is in real life. They definitely don't have the strongest bullpen anymore, but they did shore up the back end of it with Reyes Maranta as their closer, and then their lineup is actually not quite as strong as you would expect from the Yankees. It's actually pretty top-heavy and then a bunch of mediocre around it. Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, Luke Voit, and Keston Hiura are their stars, and then they don't really have much around that other than a couple mediocre guys. Like Aaron Hicks in this game is not Aaron Hicks in real life. Another very strong American League team is the Oakland Athletics. They have a very good rotation. They added Luis Severino and Joey Lucchesi. Their bullpen is arguably one of the best in the big leagues. Absolutely filthy, led of course by the Witch, Blake Trinan as their closer. Their lineup is very strong, 1-9. Manny Margot is now their center fielder. Jorge Bonifacio is their DH. Nico Goodrum's their third baseman now. And then Ramon Laureano is their goddamn fourth outfielder, while Corey Dickerson's their fifth. They just have an incredible team even after losing Matt Chapman and Matt Olson. And then the A's direct competition in the NL West is, of course, the Houston Astros, who obviously still have a very good team. Their rotation's very solid. They're 1-2-3 of Cole, Marte, and Martinez. Their bullpen's also quite filthy with Aroldis Chapman and Felipe Vasquez at the back end of it. And then their lineup, of course, is terrifying with guys like Bregman, Correa, Altuve. They've added Puig to the lineup. So they're definitely a contender in the American League as well. And then the Twins, I would say they're a contender as well. Their rotation got even better by adding Aaron Nola. The back end of their bullpen's pretty filthy with Chad Green and Trevor Hildenberger. And then their lineup also still has tons of pop. Obviously, they have Gary Sanchez, Miguel Sano, Eddie Rosario, Jonathan Scope. They added Chris Owings, who is obviously a guy who can play all around the field. Not a big power bat, but he is definitely a valuable player to have on your roster. And then the Cleveland Indians, they still have a strong team as well. The rotation is still incredible, a 1-2-3 of Shane Bieber, Corey Kluber, and Trevor Bauer. They added Ryan Yarbrough from the Tampa Bay Rays, so still just an incredible rotation for them. Their bullpen, though, is pretty weak aside from the closer spot where they have Edwin Diaz, and then their lineup is still very strong with they brought back Rafael Devers on a long-term deal, and they added Tyler Austin to be their first baseman, who was an all-star last year with the Rays, and then Andrew Tolles, who has been a consistent player for the Dodgers in their outfield, is now a member of the Indians. While the Detroit Tigers have been a team that have made a decent bit of noise in the NL Central, they are definitely competing the last couple seasons. They've got quite a solid young rotation led by Casey Mize, Matt Manning, and Franklin Perez. Their bullpen got a huge boost. It was already pretty solid, and then it got a huge boost with Jordan Hicks. The thing is, though, their lineup really only has two solid bats in Nick Castellanos, and then their mustachioed second baseman in Steven Prather. Aside from that, it's a bunch of mediocre players littered throughout their lineup. But with that being said, that is going to wrap things up here for this edition of the San Francisco Giants franchise, the spring training and season preview edition, going around looking at all the teams in the league. The next episode will obviously be opening day against the San Diego Padres. Chris Sale, Dinelson Lamet, a matchup of last year's Cy Young winners, and then also two other games in the episode. So with that being said, I've been your host, Jersey Born, and I am saying, I love Aaron Hicks.